Welcome to iPad Pros, the show all about using your iPad to be productive and get work done. I'm Tim Chen, host of the show.
Hello there, and welcome to another episode of iPad Pros. We are joined today by Wes Hilliard from Apple Insider, and we're going to discuss the Apple Creator Studio for iPad mainly, with the focus on Pixelmator Pro. That is a brand new app for iPad, which is pretty exciting. And so we're going to dive into that in today's episode of iPad Pros. If you'd like to support this podcast, you can do so over patreon.com/iPadPros or by subscribing in Apple Podcasts. With that, here's my discussion with Wes. Enjoy. Hey, Wes, how you doing?
Good. You doing all right today?
Yeah, doing good. No complaints. It's kind of like a busy time of year in iPad land almost with this Apple Creator Studio, and I think we'll have a new iPad soon enough here in the early part of the year.
Yeah, I mean, this is a strange time of year for iPad in general because some of the biggest updates to iPad have come out at the first quarter of the year. We got the cursor support and a Magic Keyboard, famously back in 2020, I believe.
Yep, right after COVID hit is the big...
Yeah, that was that first really crisp 2 HD version of Craig Federighi going over a video.
Yeah.
But no, this is exciting. I like that. I mean, we were anticipating it for a while. There was hints of it in the code. But overall, we had no idea what Apple was going to do with their acquisition of Pixelmator, which I believe was 2023.
That sounds right. Yeah, towards the end of the year, I believe.
And it was just a curiosity. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It was November 2024.
24. Okay. Yeah, I know it's towards the end of one of the years, but yeah, so it's been about a year.
And it makes sense because anytime Apple makes an acquisition, everyone's always like, "Ooh, what are they going to do?" And it's like, wait a year and we might hear something. It takes time to integrate stuff.
It does, yes.
Like we just recently heard about who was it? Sebastian DeWitt from the Halide team joining Apple, and everyone's really excited about that. What do you think about that news as far as Apple goes? Is he going to?
It's interesting. I'd assume he's going to be on the camera team. Is that accurate to say?
He is on the Apple design team. There's no delineation from that. All we know is he's on the Apple design team.
But coming from Halide, surely they must be.
Well, so he originated at Apple before he was an independent developer,
right?
And
yes.
He helped create the Find My app and designing for stuff like that. So I think he's going to be an excellent re-addition to the team.
But do you think this is a large part because Alan Dye is gone and the new leadership there is like, let's get this guy back and let's kind of get some...
It's tricky. These kinds of things can happen with a phone call. These kinds of things can take months. So it's hard to say who pulled the trigger here. Obviously, we have people, the new design person's taking over, Jeffrey LeMay. I believe I have that right. I might be confusing him with another of the 15 exchanges that happened in the last year. But yes, the new design takeover and new leadership roles around that, I could see that happening. But the reason why I bring him up is because he is so closely tied to iPhone photography. And here now we have Pixelmator Pro coming to the iPad for the first time, but it has been on the Mac for years. I believe that was a 2019, 2020 debut. Is actually it's not as old as you would think, as old as Pixelmator is, because Pixelmator...
Oh, that's an old one, like 2012 or 20... Very old. It's very old. I remember using that at one of my very old day jobs.
Can you name all of the Pixelmator apps off the top of your head?
Pixelmator, which is now Pixelmator Classic, Photomator, Pixelmator Pro.
Yeah, see, Photomator always slips through the cracks.
I love Photomator. I use
Photomator is great. And everyone's also like, is that going away? And honestly, I don't think so.
It sounds like they're going to continue to update it. And that is a subscription app already. So it has a revenue stream as well. It has an unlimited unlock, which is what I did for my copy of it.
Oh, interesting. I'm not sure if the business model changed when Apple took over.
Did they remove the subscription? Is that gone?
Yeah, I believe it might be a get now. I mean, at worst, it's a one-time purchase, but I don't think it's a subscription anymore.
Well, getting means you can download it and then you would subscribe, right?
Yeah, see, I have no visibility in because I already had the app. But
Yeah, it's hard to tell. Like for me, it's like, oh, I unlocked the unlimited unlock when I bought it, so
yeah,
I'm all set. Yeah.
but no, it's a excellent app, and I bring it up too because it was well made for iPad, and we were just waiting. Okay, well, any day now, Pixelmator Pro on
Yep.
the iPad, and interesting enough, as I fiddled around with Pixelmator Pro, I realized the entirety of Photomator is inside of Pixelmator Pro as one of the editing layers.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
With a different interface or a similar interface?
it's the LUT control, like, so when you're editing a photo, it's just base layer, literally, like Lightroom, Adobe Lightroom, if people want that nomenclature.
Yeah.
You have, white balance, saturation, brightness, shadow, the HSL curves, basically.
Nice.
Like that's what Photomator is. It's they also,
it's got the super resolution as well.
Super resolution's a big one. I use that a lot. And I previously would use Affinity Photo to create my designs, a layered, construction of some kind. And if I needed a larger resolution photo, I would open Photomator, enlarge the image, and then export it to Affinity. But now I don't need to do that. But yes, if you open the color adjustments view is what it's called in Pixelmator Pro, it's literally the entire panel for Photomator. But this is important though, because people are like, well, why do we need Photomator anymore? And I will say,
it's nice to have a tool that's dedicated and you have less clutter in the UI and all that.
It's that. It's also less complex, right? Because Photomator interacts directly with photos in a good way. Now, you can also switch to a files view, which I very much appreciate for how I store my system, so that's great. But either way, whatever, if it's file system or photos, you're interacting with it using Apple's built-in APIs from, honestly, I think a previous class. Now, if you look at Pixelmator Pro, they're using a more modern language, a lot like Preview, where you open the app and you see a minimized file browser and the option to browse photos, which I still don't know how I feel about this, because the idea is, and the separation here is that you're opening a document. Every photo you choose or any document you choose, you're creating a new .pxt document, whereas Photomator edits in place. And then at the end of the edit, you can say, save the original file or export as a new file.
Yeah.
I'm not
it's
sure.
a really nice kind of workflow for that.
Yeah, I don't know where I am on that spectrum of which one I prefer. I'm glad both exist at this point.
Well, in the way the Photos app works, you can also always restore the original if down the line you don't like it.
Yeah, and Pixelmator, like I said, it's its own beast. So in Photomator, the reason why I like it, and I think it needs to remain standalone. And honestly, I don't know, it wouldn't be a bad idea. I wouldn't be opposed if it somehow got blended into the Photos app, but then it would lose the files functionality. That's where it gets complicated.
Yeah,
I think files needs to be a tab in Photos. Just saying, but there's a way they could probably do it to salvage it. But it being its own standalone, here's your editing tool. That's fine. I think a rebrand could happen at some point. It could probably use a redesign. They could come to this new interface. It could even get roped into the Apple Creator Studio, which we can talk about. But I just like the fact that it's so simple. You open it, you tap your photo, you edit it, and you're either hit save or export. And it's such a much faster, much more straightforward, understandable workflow. And you don't have to be a part of a very expensive subscription to get to it.
Yeah. The bundle is where I have the most issues with what Apple did here for Pro iPad users. A bundle should exist alongside individual apps like they used to have for $5 a month, where you could turn on and off at will Final Cut for $5 a month. They basically just jacked the price 60% to any person that just wants to use Final Cut. Or with Pixelmator Pro, it'd be nice if I could just turn that on and off for $5 a month. Now it's was it $13?
So it's $12.99
Yeah.
a month or $129 a year. And here's the thing: if you're a Pixelmator Pro user and you don't use Logic or Final Cut or Motion Capture, any of those compressor,
well, that stuff's just the Mac. If you're an iPad, they should have an iPad only lower cost one that's just those 3 apps,
like an $8.99 maybe option.
Something. Yeah.
But the thing, here's my deal. I want to get into the history of my use of Pixelmator at some point, but like the price is tough, right? Because I agree with you that Apple should have broken it up, but also
because they basically removed the option. So if you were an existing iPad person that, 4 months of the year you're using Final Cut, so you turn it on for 4 months, then turn it off, you now got a huge price jack. And the whole idea of a bundle is it's a bundle to make it makes it look more in price. So like it makes it look better. Like, so for $5 I can just get this one app. Yeah. I get one app for $5, or I could get all these apps for $13. And with iPad, it's really if you use 2 of the apps, you're saving money basically.
So right now, if you were a Final Cut subscriber, was it $10 a month?
$5.
No, it's $5 a month.
Yeah.
So if you got Final Cut and Logic, that's $10 a month. And if Apple threw another $5 on, so
you need to use 3. You need to use 3 for it to make sense. Yeah.
For it to make sense, for it to be financially applicable. I think Apple could and should have had a Pixelmator Pro subscription that was standalone that was also $5. That would be nice.
Yeah, I would have done that, quite honestly, because right now I'm just so turned off by the whole thing. I have not subscribed. At some point I'll try the free trial, but it's like way too expensive for my usage of these apps. Yeah.
I think I would have gone individual. I'm honestly though,
because it's the fact that they existed already. If they launched this with never having individual apps to begin with, less of an issue. But the fact that they had $5 a month options and yanked those away from it's asinine to me. I
do think that I would have used the bundle. It's hard to say because from my perspective and the work that I do, I like being able to experiment with this stuff. I like being able to work with this stuff, even if I don't have a use for it. A lot of times, if Apple does something, I try to dig into it because I feel like it's important for my knowledge base. It's important for my writing. So I may have subscribed anyway because it's overall not an unreasonable amount of money for the software that you're getting. But if you don't use all that software, obviously, yes, you are coming out of pocket for it.
Totally.
And I think the business model here makes sense. It's the same one Adobe uses. From a pure business perspective, what they are doing is subsidizing the cost of one with the other and basically forcing people into the subscription who want any one of the apps by getting all of them, and hoping that there's a bit of a halo effect of, okay, well, because these apps are available, even if you don't, someone in your extended Apple family might take advantage of these things, might make use of these things. And I do believe we're going to get more in the future. Freeform is going to come as another add-in, just like the iWork suite in the future. And that's somewhat interesting, but I think that iWork suite edition and those apps, I think that's a kind of a preview of what we can expect Apple Creator Studio to be. It's going to have these wider effects on the ecosystem where you're going to get little bits of things here and there. I could easily see a pro feature of the Apple Camera app being tied to Apple Creator Studio in the future.
Yeah, that would make sense. But quite honestly, I really think the iWork stuff should have been a part of iCloud Plus. Like, why is my spreadsheet tied to video editing? It makes no sense in the world.
This is the other frustration. Like, I agree. Or maybe even have a separate iWork Pro subscription.
Yeah.
I mean, the granularity here, I think, is missing, again, because of the business sense. Apple knows that they're more likely to get people to subscribe. Now, if they're smart and they do actually want to directly compete with Adobe, I could see more bundles breaking out. Perhaps this is just a launch option. I went ahead and did the year option, $130, because that's just how I like to do subscriptions. If there's an annual option, it's almost always cheaper by some amount of money, and that adds up over time. But Also, in my use, Pixelmator Pro is worth $13 a month.
Yeah, because you're a heavy user of that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
going to use it almost every day for everything that I do. I help manage our photo library for work. I generate new images all the time for articles to make sure that we're not stale and we're using the same image over and over again. So I'm always looking for new ways to edit and create photos. And I'm also, really enjoy photography. So I'm always taking photos and I'm doing a lot of review photography. So having a high-end editor like this is essential. And Affinity was fine, but it's always frustrated me that for some reason, warp and skew tools are non-existent on iPad. I don't know if it's somehow processor intensive or something, or just something that's overlooked, but nothing ever came with it. And Affinity was one of those tools. So if I wanted to do a screen replacement, which is where you take a photo of a device that has a screen, but you know that there's going to be a glare or dirt or fingerprints, you take a screenshot of that moment and then overlay it. But you have to have a skew option to overlay it because you're not going to get
The
a perfectly
angle.
straight on
Yeah.
photo of that screen. Never. And it just didn't exist. And Pixelmator Pro let me do that. And that was great. But then it's not on iPad. So if I needed to do that kind of editing, I would need to get on my Mac either through this little desktop thing that I have or open the Vision Pro. I would, ever since the Vision Pro came out, I found myself anytime I needed Pixelmator Pro, I would be diving in through the Apple Vision Pro virtual display. So it's just, finally, it's here. It's got all the functionality of the desktop operating system. They did an excellent job porting it over to a touch interface, even though I'm still using a cursor. It still works great.
Is
Liquid
anything
glass
missing?
looks good.
Is anything missing from the Mac app, to your mind?
No, everything's here. Every functionality. If there is something missing, it's just something I'm not aware of. But everything that I could possibly think of, I've dug around for. Even the template system that Apple hasn't updated in a while is there. So there's actually a tool. If you're like me, I like having device frames for my screenshots for professional stuff for work. And I use ShareShot or Pixu. I always want to say something else. Pixo. See, I said the wrong thing again. Pixo. Anyway, I have those apps to put my devices in frames. Federico Viticci also had his frame shortcut that was famous for a while. I don't know if people still use that.
Oh yeah.
But in Pixelmator Pro, if you go to the Add Document button and scroll down, there's a device option, and Apple has iMac, MacBook, various devices, iPad Pro, Apple Watch Ultra, but it's missing Apple Watch. And you can't switch the bands on the Apple Watch. It's missing. It has the iPhone 16, but not the iPhone 17. It doesn't have the iPhone 17 Pro.
It's interesting because from my assumption, it would be Apple would only have the latest and greatest devices, and you can't have any old devices. But it sounds like they're not keeping them up to date, which is probably the issue.
And what's really frustrating is Apple literally has these entire design sections of their website where you can download all these assets. Like, it's not even an unknown thing. And I'm sure someone could probably, I think you can import templates. Maybe I'm wrong. But I feel like this would be something easily recreatable by the user as well. But what's interesting, I wanted to point out about these templates that is unique from using these third-party apps, and why I even would care, because the third-party apps are powerful on their own, is once you open one of these templates in Pixelmator Pro, you have the ability to, they have basically built-in widgets for the shadow and for the device screen. So you can click a little plus button on the display, and will let you just insert from photos. And so basically you take a screenshot and you go to it and say, use the screenshot from photos, and it swaps it out automatically. No adjustments required. So, and again, I know these third-party apps do this, but the fact that it is built into this app like this, now obviously Pixelmator did this before Apple bought it, and I don't think anyone realized that it's there. Nobody's removed it or updated it, but I would like to see that updated and upgraded. It's not that I don't want to use third-party apps. It's just I'm very much a person who, if the first party can do it, that's where I want it to be.
Yeah, completely understood. And then the how much does the Mac app depend on like the menu system up top on the Mac? Is that a part of the navigation, or is it mainly in the actual window of this app?
Well, I mean, just like any app, it just gets down to what you're doing and your workflows. I mean, I've always been a traditional computer user. I grew up in the Windows world. My first computer was one of those, well, depends on which first computer you want to talk about. The one when I was too young to understand what it was like this one of these little beige guys. But like when I was actually tinkering with these guys, it was like a Dell 2002 something, and one of the black PCs, one of the ones that were kind of new and sleek in that way. Is exciting. It's like, ooh, black computer. And I went in and I played a lot of solitaire and pinball, but I also figured out the file system and would go into apps and things. And using menu bars and stuff in those old operating systems was a huge part of interacting with it. And Mac OS is still that way in some ways. But then iPad, and now in the last few years, I've been an iPad first user. I had a brief relapse where I was on Macs when they shifted to Apple Silicon. I used a 14-inch MacBook Pro for literally 1 year. And then I think 14-inch MacBook Pro purchased, used it for a year. And then at the end of that year, Stage Managers announced switch back to iPad and get back to, or it's not, maybe it wasn't Stage Manager, maybe it was external display support. But anyway, that timeline, basically Apple forced me back to the iPad with all the stuff they were doing. And in that time, I got addicted to Pixelmator Pro because, again, wasn't on iPad. This is cool.
Yeah.
It replaced my entire photo workflow. It was very fast, very efficient. And that was the one thing I immediately missed going back to iPad. Anyway, never bothered with menus. I'm looking now, and actually, this is a full featured menu system on iPad OS.
Okay. How different is like the interface itself from the Mac? Like, it feels like an iPad app. I know there's like it says it's touch first interface and Apple Pencil support and all that. Like, how different is the Mac from the iPad as far as the interface and just using it?
So the biggest difference is more is hidden, which is natural for Apple designed apps. Pixelmator Pro on Mac is still designed the same way that the Pixelmator team had it designed. And basically, like, the layout is the same. On your left side, if you can choose to hide it, but on your left side is your layers.
Yep.
And on the right side is your tools. And the tools are still basically in the same order and position that they were in that toolbar, but now instead of it being a built-in toolbar like you've seen in Photoshop or something, it's this layered liquid glass floating bobble, but larger icons, honestly easier to tap with your finger or easier to see even. I prefer this. Less icons overall, but you can actually go to a customization menu and choose which tools appear here.
Oh, very nice.
And
if you have the pencil,
lot of hidden tools.
If you have the pencil, will hovering over it tell you what the tool does?
So, I can try that live. Let's see. So I'm not a heavy Apple Pencil user, but I will say, like, I have an Apple Pencil Pro and I tinker with it. It definitely comes in handy in apps like this. And now that this app is here, I need to remind myself that I can do this. Like, I never bothered in Affinity because, again, even pencil support didn't feel, I mean, it was fine. It just felt like a second-class citizen. This is a fully featured iPad app, including in how it has implemented Apple Pencil. And so Hover is a feature that works. Let me see if I can get this.
Yeah, because with a lot of these apps, it's like, what does this tool even do? It's nice the Apple Pencil's been so nice to just like.
So funny enough, I don't think. I mean, also my pencil was kind of dead, so I charged it a little bit. So it's pretty limited support right now. Funny enough, it's good for the touch. It's good for the interface to use.
Yeah,
but it looks like Apple's interface icons in the top, which is like an undo button, a new an add-in item button. Like, all of these menus have hover support. Yeah, but the toolbar menu does not have hover, and it does not have any kind of preview stuff.
Interesting. So, okay.
Again, maybe my pencil's just dead, and they turned some of this stuff off. Oh wait. Now hover is behaving. So the interface does have hover when it makes sense, but it's
Good.
not an
Yeah.
all the time thing. Like it should be previewing the tool on the screen
Mhm.
and creating a digital shadow. It does not appear to be doing that. So
Okay.
that's interesting that you brought that up, but that feels like something that could definitely add. Oh, see, I think I keep lying to you guys. Yeah, my pencil was just dead. So I am getting a preview cursor and based on the tool that I'm using, and it's showing the size of the brush and where it's going to go. So yeah, the hover is working.
Yeah.
But
You know,
yes,
the Apple Pencil, I know Apple doesn't want to do it. It needs an off switch, man. Like mine's always dead too. It's in the bag, and like it's I'm not going to leave it attached to the iPad because that's the quickest way to get it lost.
I don't think so. Maybe not an off switch, but I think what would work best is if it had like a 5 minutes
or like you
haven't
tap
moved.
you tap it to the top of the iPad to like turn it on after a long period or something.
Well, honestly, they could go one step further. There are so many sensors built into this guy because I wouldn't even say motion because it could be in a bag, but it has the force press sensor and double tap sensor. It should be able to tell very easily if someone is holding it versus if it's laying in a bag or on a table.
Yeah, that would be the thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah. But to answer your question, no, it doesn't have any preview functions, sadly, on the toolbar. But I think that's a good idea. I think that now that this is in an Apple team, this is going to be one of those things where I'm very curious where it's going to go, the evolution of this product, because obviously it can. There's a lot that can be done here, and there's a lot of growth potential. They could definitely add a lot of functionality and do some really cool stuff, but they have to actually do it. And this is what I was going to get back to earlier. That's the point of the subscription model. I know Apple has all the money in the world, and they don't really have to think about this stuff, but it still thinks like a company. It doesn't matter how much money it has in the bank or how much it makes. If it's still going to expend its resources in very specific ways. If there's a direct revenue component tied to Pixelmator Pro, Pages, Numbers, Keynote, and these other apps, that is a recurring revenue component that's visible and easy to track and see, you know how much money you can spend on those resources. You know how much of a team you can hire and have versus before, especially with iWork. That software is just free. And so Apple probably had a team of 2 people bothering with the updates. That's why even we barely saw Liquid Glass updates come to those, and there's still not even native Vision Pro apps for them because
except for Keynote. Yep.
Except for Keynote. And it's just, I understand the frustration people have with the pricing and the business model, but this is how modern software gets resources.
Yeah. I just hope
kinds of things.
We see updates on a more frequent cadence than Final Cut and Logic did when they had their subscriptions. They had updates, but it felt like a little bit slower cadence than a lot of people would have enjoyed.
And I will say for those apps too, though, they are very mature, very old apps. I mean,
Final Cut has a lot of things it needs help with on the iPad. I mean,
Final Cut has a lot of room to grow. It has a lot of functions that aren't even there.
Yes.
Even though it's running on the same M series processor as a Mac with all the functions, this gets back to
they can't even use the same. You can't work on the same projects. You have to start an iPad then finish on Mac. Like it needs to. Eventually get to the point. It needs to get to the point where that's not a thing anymore. 5 years from now or 2 years from now, however long it takes.
I think that with the renewed focus on iPad OS and how they've been doing things, these Pro apps, this is a perfect opportunity for Apple dogfooding to really push these apps forward, especially on iPad. But I'm with you. Those apps, I mean, they were always expensive. They always had a revenue source, and yet they still barely saw updates. And they were all often updated later because they were organized differently. People always wonder, like, why isn't Logic Pro getting redesigned right now? Why doesn't it have Liquid Glass?
Mm-hmm.
It's because it's built on an entirely separate UI paradigm. There's like a Pro kit that Apple uses for these apps. That's not the normal toolkit for these apps. That's why Pixelmator Pro is unique, because it is not built on that Pro kit design language. So they were able to jump straight from here's a Mac app to here's a liquid glassified version of this app. So it'll be interesting to see if we see a transition for those apps to a more modern design style.
Yeah. Now, how is Pixelmator Pro on an external monitor? Do you do much work with that?
Yeah, I work primarily from my desk, connected to an external monitor. I have my iPad on an arm, and it connects to everything through a Thunderbolt dock over a single cable, and that is connected to a studio display. And I have, generally speaking, I'm working from Safari and Drafts on the main screen, but if I'm going to do a lot of photo work, I will open Pixelmator Pro on the external display, and it's full screen. It's a 16:9 app, and the interface works great through mouse controls.
Nice. Okay, so it takes over your full screen. You can resize it however you want to in the external. It's a one window at an app time kind of thing. There's not like a multiple window experience with Pixelmator, I'm guessing.
Let's see. Just going to try to do that, because that is not something that's come to mind. Obviously, for some artists, some creators, that would be a very useful function. It looks like, yes, I think it's intensive enough as an app that it is required to be one window at a time. There's no new window option.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Yeah.
But you can easily move between documents. The save state of these documents is permanent and instantaneous. So you can just fall out of one and go into another without any issue. It's funny too. The file structure is free-forming, so you can go anywhere in the file system and create a document from Pixelmator Pro. So if I don't do this. I'm still old-fashioned. Maybe I should be doing this more, but I keep the main file thing that you see when you open on the iCloud Pixelmator Pro folder, which still exists. But funny enough, if I instead was like, well, I'm going to create a project that's going to output an image from my iPad Pro image folder, let's say, I could navigate through my file system, go to my image directory, go to the iPad Pro section, and then tap create document there. But then what's funny is Pixelmator's always done this. In the Pixelmator Pro iCloud file, it has a folder called linked files, and it's just it's that APFS system where it can clone, and it has a cloned directory of every image you've ever edited in Pixelmator that you can easily access. So there's two ways to get to your files, and there's two ways to create and save everything. But for me personally, I don't want the PXD files spread across my file system, because that's what they are when you're editing. I want the PXD file in the Pixelmator Pro folder, and then I export to the document as a JPEG or what have you. There's also the option, obviously, in settings that when you open a document, do you want to open it as a PXD file, or do you want to open it as the source file, which I haven't tried personally. I prefer using the PXD format, but that is an option.
Yeah. So resizing Pixelmator Pro, how does it get to like iPhone size classes on the iPad if you want to make it a really tiny app?
Yeah, this thing actually gets absurdly, stupidly small.
Is there a world where they make an iPhone version of this thing that you would probably not do a lot of work in, but it's there?
It doesn't make sense. I mean, the interface is here to an extent. Oh, see, I just moved a guide that I'm gonna have to fix later.
Right.
Because I'm using touch and it's not as precise. I honestly, let's see. This is so funny. There's not even a good way to access okay, there's the toolbar. When it's minimized to a certain point,
like the tools disappear, yeah.
Yeah, the toolbar became it minimized itself to being just one tool, and you have to tap that tool to reopen the toolbar. So that's interesting. Obviously the way it's laid out, it's viable, it's doable, but it's not desirable. I couldn't see anyone wanting to work that way. Again, Photomator's on iPhone. So if you want to get in there and do a quick edit or do super resolution for some project you're doing for social media or whatever, that all works fine.
Yeah, Photomator's great on the phone. I've done a lot in there.
Yeah, I could see maybe there being a social media manager out there who would want to create an Instagram image on the fly and they just happen to only have their phone, and this layering would be okay, especially on a larger phone screen.
Yeah.
Or maybe a
The
foldable
fold.
if we ever get one.
Right. Yeah.
It's just, we'll see. Apple
Yeah.
could do it. It's not impossible, obviously. It's just you're getting so granularly small. You'd be zoomed so much into the document. I don't know how worthwhile that would be.
Yeah. Now, one wild thing I'm seeing on Apple's like marketing page for Pixelmator Pro is them having the iPad and Mac open side by side with the same file open, basically saying you can work on the same file at the same time on both places. So you're like zoomed into a flower with the zoomed out view on the Mac, and you're like going back and forth and using both at the same time with it just updating live. Like that seems like a recipe for disaster, but Apple's advertising that you can actually do that.
Continuity, it's actually been pretty functional as a thing for a long time. I can open Pages and type on my iPad and see it update live on my Mac. Obviously, internet connection, home network stability, all of that stuff comes into play, but when it's working, it's perfect.
So that's a part of continuity?
I mean, I think that's just, it's a blanket term. I think
okay, because I always think of like you're using the keyboard and mouse between devices versus like a file updating live across both devices.
Well, continuity was introduced, I believe, in 2014 as a feature, and that was actually the beginnings of when iCloud was actually becoming something that was useful. Because when Mobile Me and everything started, it was kind of a trash fire and files just wouldn't sync and there was a lot of issues. So Apple kind of reintroduced everything with this continuity kind of statement tied to it, saying, no, actually, it's not just that your files sync. It's an ecosystem of file networking, and you get one file system for all your devices. And it's what evolved into stuff like universal clipboard and universal control. But no, continuity is the baseline feature. It attaches everything to each other. And collaboration tools work through continuity, I believe, even. So again, it's just a baseline syncing feature. I could see in a weird world where if you have a Mac and an iPad, especially maybe not an iPad Pro, and you wanted to work on a powerful M series chip alongside an asset library, maybe you need Apple's FSys symbol library, or you need an app, easy access to an app data set where, again, all these files are only really accessible or easily managed from a Mac, because there's not really much of that happening on iPad just yet. I could see a world where you're doing all of this. You have multiple monitors connected to a Mac. One of them is Pixelmator Pro. You're dealing with your asset library. You're dealing with a web page and reference points. All of this is going on. And then off to the side on a drawing board on your desk is the same Pixelmator app open with Apple Pencil, where you can sketch inside of the app or directly manipulate the assets, and it's updating in real time on the Mac. So like there's definitely use cases where that works. As for me, as an iPad first and only really user, it's a cool feature that I will never touch, but I will not say that sounds silly, because honestly, there's several ways that could be useful to a professional that's using both tools. But for me, I will always fall to if I can get it done on the iPad, that's where I want to be.
Yeah. So you mentioned earlier Photomator is kind of built into this. So that's kind of Lightroom baked into this. Is it at its heart like Photoshop is the analog for those? We haven't really talked about just like what is this comparable to as far as other apps out there?
It's complicated because as much as I use this stuff, I'm not sure how accurate my nomenclature is, but my understanding is yes, Photomator's like Lightroom. If you want to go that way, especially like Lightroom on iPad is comparable. Photoshop is such a ubiquitous term, people I think forget even what it means. But it's a layering tool. Photoshop allows you to insert parts of images and manipulate those parts, or
it was
select.
It was
objects.
How you did internet fake images before AI, right?
Yeah, and so people used to say that's photoshopped, and now they say that's AI, and
yes,
it's all very silly. But yes, you could insert objects, or you could insert a image that was very complex and then select every object in that image and then manipulate them individually. There's a very complex system. One of my favorite silly jokes, I believe College Humor did it, was Photoshop has gone too far, I think is the video. And it starts with what looks like an image of like a supermodel. And if you watch the video, it's like them retouching it and removing all of the things, like one of those classic viral memes of like, this person's actually not particularly beautiful, but they super enhance them to be unrealistic beauty standards or whatever. But instead, it eventually gets to be a cheese pizza. And I found that very funny. But it's the power of Photoshop. Like, you can turn a cheese pizza into a supermodel if you have enough layering techniques, I guess.
Right.
But that's kind of the idea. And Pixelmator Pro is not Photoshop as far as scope, but it is in feature set. So Photoshop is such a behemoth, decades of software built into it, decades of plugins and tools and brushes. Pixelmator is like if someone was creating Photoshop today, this is what it would look like out of the box. It's new. Mm-hmm. There's no plugins. There's no brushes, really. Affinity is similar in that way, except they actually have more plugin and brush support than even Pixelmator Pro does. It's very much the foundation set of features that you get from Photoshop. Some people could not give up Photoshop in place of Pixelmator. Most people can. Most people don't need an image editor that's like this, that has layering and shadows and controls. I think there's different terms. There's a pixel editor, which is like what Pixelmator was, which is basically you can get a brush down to the pixel fine point and paint pixels into an image. Pixelmator Pro still does that as a pixel image.
Yeah, I did that all the time at my old day job of I'm zooming far in and outlining like the person to remove the background of, and I just like draw around it kind of thing.
Yeah, and now it's more of a, God, I see the words escaping me, but it's like a node based. It's still pixel based, but there's layering, and the way you can draw into the system is like node based, and you got these like different points that you can add it. It's interesting. It's definitely what you can accurately call it a Photoshop competitor, but it still isn't quote unquote Photoshop, because it's like saying, not to the scale of professional use cases, but just to the scale of functionality. It's like saying iMovie is a competitor to Final Cut.
Right.
Like iMovie is literally the bare bones of video editing that most people can get by with, and you can literally build a movie in Final Cut. So
yeah, it's no iMovie HD, the good old days of iMovie where you had more power, right?
Yeah, Pixelmator Pro is a great app, and I'm not disparaging it in any way. And I think it is a very valid competitor to Adobe. I honestly think most people who should look into switching over to this, and you can augment it with other apps. I mean, on iPad, that's kind of always been the system. It's more piecemeal. You get Pixelmator Pro for this specific feature. You get Procreate for painting and stuff like that. Like, there's so many ways you can do this, and I think that's the superpower that iPad gives us, that we can get out of these legacy systems where Photoshop is expected to be the tool because it is everything.
Yes.
Instead, you're breaking out pieces of Photoshop into separate apps and only accessing the features that you need. And I expect we'll see Pixelmator Pro grow and gain more stuff. One of the really cool features they have in here, which is possible because of some of their machine learning algorithms and Apple calling Apple Intelligence, but it's still kind of the old models. I don't really see any LLM type stuff going on here, but they have these design templates where you can warp images around soda cans and bottles in 3D. So there's actually a little 3D image editor built into Pixelmator Pro, and I can see that becoming huge going forward.
That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And I will say, so there's one thing to note here. It is not available in any form on Apple Vision Pro.
That is infuriating. Yeah.
Now, I will say I can see it being difficult. It's too precise.
Well, you'd use it with a trackpad, obviously.
Yes, and that's kind of the problem. If this was a native Vision app, I could see them enlarging the buttons and touch points and highlighting touch targets in the app, but it's just not something that you would do.
And you would use the
Apple Vision
Logitech
Pro.
Muse with it, maybe.
Yeah. Now, but this is kind of what I'm getting at, though. I could see a future where a version of this app exists for Vision Pro, where it's Pixelmator Vision Pro instead of Pixelmator Pro, because you're not doing a 2D layered object that you're going to show on the web. You're able to bring that soda can and put it on your desk and draw on it directly using the Logitech Muse in 3 dimensions, right?
Yeah.
Like that's where that could go, where it's a fully native virtual interface and you're interacting with these 3D instead of it being or another option would be is if you have a 50 layer file going, you could visualize the files by being able to walk between the layers and grab specific
Right.
objects and move them around. Like there's a million ways you could virtualize this on Vision Pro. I hope the app comes there, but right now, even as an iPad compatible app, this would be a bit rough on that platform. So I'm okay with them not doing this at launch. I just hope they don't forget that Vision Pro exists. But seeing these 3D modeling tools gives me a lot of hope because it tells me that, you know, especially if you're a developer, this is a great development tool of if you want to make I know this isn't Vision Pro's podcast, but if you want to make an object to interact with in your app, this would be the place to do it. And I think Apple could own that space, and I think that would be cool.
That would be cool. Am I right with the just a sidetrack with the Vision Pro? The iWork stuff. Did Keynote get that? They have the new icon, but did they get any of the paid for stuff?
I haven't even put. I don't open Keynote on Vision Pro. I don't even use Keynote anywhere else. I don't have any reason to.
Yeah.
So that's a good question. That's something I'd have to look at very specifically. Okay. I went out of my way to watch the dog show the other day. That was cute, but I haven't really tinkered with, because I just basically put it on and said, oh, Pixelmator Pro isn't here, and went back to work. But
yeah,
it's interesting. I mean, no Final Cut, no Logic, none of the other apps either. Obviously, you can still get to those apps through Mac Virtual Display, but
it's obnoxious because it should run iPad apps, all of them.
I will say, as an iPad user, this was the literal last thing Apple had to do for me to literally, I could have no Mac in the house and be fine. Right?
Yeah, because you don't need Xcode.
No.
Yeah.
Well, now, see, this is where that's a whole different show. I don't necessarily want to vibe code, but I do like the idea of, the other day I was like at church or whatever, and I was looking at, they have this very basic, probably like Substack style, Squarespace style template website where they have like a newsletter they send out to tell you their schedule or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I wonder how hard it would be to tell like Claude or something to make this into an app.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff is now possible. And I've seen a lot of really interesting projects, and we can have a whole separate discussion about the ethics of AI. Believe me, that is a topic on my mind. I'm not one of these AI thumper crazy people, but that is something that the Mac can do. I mean, I don't see why the iPad couldn't do it. I could foresee a very near future where we're getting this new AI system where you could get a playground, right? It's app playgrounds, where you can kind of do that kind of stuff inside of that layer on an iPad. But there are still obviously things that a Mac can do that I would like to have one around, especially for screenshots for work, and you know, I need to play with Mac OS from time to time. But it's not that it's a useless product, but I do like that Apple is erasing that. They, you know, I can podcast. That's where I'm podcasting now. I'm on an iPad. Pixelmator Pro's here. I'm even playing around with a couple of emulators that have snuck in Dolphin support, so I can play GameCube games.
Yes,
even though
it's limited because it doesn't have the unlocked
JIT. Yeah. just in time translation. That's the thing, is it's still not great, but the fact that they can do it at all tells me that we're getting really close to it just working even without. But yeah, like that kind of stuff is all here, and I'm glad that the Mac's still here. My routine is I have it right now in this little, it looks like a what is this guy called? One of the little beige Macs. It's Mac Plus, I think. It's just disguised in one of these guys. A company makes it Wojis or something, and it has a 5-inch display. It's this little guy on my desk, and I come in and I tap the magic mouse that it's connected to, and it wakes up and it's opened. My Apple Watch unlocks it, and it goes straight to a Slack screen. That way, my green bubble stays on while I'm on shift because the iPad does not preserve the green bubble, and then I go sit down on my desk, and now because that Mac behind me across the room is awake, I can now use universal control from my iPad Pro to my iPad Mini, which is usually displaying music or references or something. And like
that's right. It's obnoxious that universal control doesn't work between two iPads.
Yes.
It's so yeah.
And like again, is shaving off the little bits at a time. That could be the next thing Apple does, is kill that, or someone at Slack making it so I can keep my green dot on without a Mac or without the app being open in the foreground.
Yes,
but make it widget based, make it timer based. I'm so tired of this babysitting employee garbage. But anyway, because all I want to do is I just want people to know I'm available. We're not doing our time charts based on Slack. It's stupid.
Sure.
But anyway, it's all interesting what Apple's doing here, because there's still the people out there that say make it run Mac OS, and I think that is the worst thing Apple could ever do for an iPad, is make it run Mac OS.
Yeah,
and
agreed.
I'm so glad to see that we're getting these little incremental updates. We're getting these new features, these new apps, and I say it all the time on the Apple Insider podcast. I'll say it here: Apple should make more apps. Period. Just keep making more apps, because every time they come out with a native app, whether it's for dog fooding or for actual maintenance and feature sets, it's so interesting to see how they live in that space and how third parties react to it. And yeah, I'm excited for what. I think Apple Creator Studio as a whole has a pretty strong future, and I think we're going to see more apps and more things attached to it in the same way we've seen Apple One evolve in a few ways, and we've seen iCloud Plus evolve over time. So
yeah. Now, one thing I'm curious about, the Photos extension, is that a Mac only feature? Because if I go on my iPad and I go to edit a photo in the Photos app, I can click the triple dot thing, and there's extensions. And one of my extensions currently is Pixelmator Classic, and lets me apply a filter from Pixelmator Classic directly in the Photos app. Did they do any kind of extension work for the iPad version of Pixelmator Pro, or is that still locked to the Mac only?
You know, extensions was such a huge deal when they started really being a thing, and then they
forgot about it.
Well, everyone forgot about it, including developers.
Yes.
I do not even have a single app on my iPad that shows up as an extension. So
you don't have Pixelmator Classic installed then?
No, I don't. I kind of hated that app, and I
have a strong history with that app. That's where I do my thumbnails still for my YouTube videos. I load up Pixelmator Classic, and at the same file I've been working on for a good 5+ years. Yeah.
When it first launched, it was everything we needed, because it was the only thing that existed that was like it. And then it never changed or updated or got better features or a better user interface. It just kind of stagnated. And I mean, I think it still had the repair tool, and that was one of the innovative things that they had early on. But beyond that, yeah, like it just fell off a cliff. And as soon as Affinity stepped in and started doing some serious stuff there, Pixelmator just got forgotten in the background as far as that app goes, and now it's fully baked into Pixelmator Pro. I just don't. It's discontinued as well. It's no longer getting updates, and I believe
it got one final update recently that the UI is much better, much more modern than it used to be with that last update they did.
Interesting that that must have been something just coming through the pipeline, but yeah, that app is going to be completely discontinued very soon. For better or worse. It
is funny though. Pixelmator Pro and Photomator. It's like, where's the You can't have Pro without. I guess you can't have Pro without. It's Final Cut Pro. There's no Final Cut, so I guess that makes sense. But
Well, like, yeah. Where's the base app? Yeah, I mean, Logic Pro, no Logic. This kind of gets
there
into,
used to be Final Cut Express for those that are old enough to remember.
Yeah, I want to see a kind of a different future here. I want to see this slowly evolve. I think the Photos app, and see, this is complicated because I understand why it's there, but I think they should ditch the editing tool in Photos altogether.
Oh man,
And
that's bold because it's very helpful to have just some basic things.
Not that it needs to not be a feature, but I want a photo library app that lets me manage my photos. So let me go in, let it be more focused on viewing photos. Let it have, like, I know this is off on a tangent, but I don't know how much more we can say on Pixelmator Pro. But as we're closing up here, the collections view is cute, and it's customizable, but it is not a homepage, right? And nor is library. Library is just an infinite scroll of everything you've ever done, which is great, but also still not a homepage. What I want is a Photos app set up almost like a social media interface where I have a photo of the day. I want the most recent photo collection, a memory, right? I want a primary home screen interface for the library, and then the ability to jump into the full library view or collections view or these other folders and albums, and have the entire Photos app be dedicated just to viewing, managing, collecting photos. And even maybe metadata control, stuff like that. Things that have to do with sorting and viewing your library. And then Photomator, right? Just if you need to edit, there could still even be an edit button in Photos. But if you go in and tap the edit button, it switches to the identical photo in like Photomator or whatever Apple's new editing app is called, Aperture. And it lets you just jump straight into that editing tool. You hit save. And then you can pre-program the logic of when you save, return to Photos, or when you save, stay in the photo editor. Like, I like that idea, if only because I think Photos is becoming, or has become over time, too bulky and too, like, there's too many people that don't even know you can edit photos in Photos. Like, there's people who go to the App Store to look for an app to crop photos, right? Because they don't realize that they have to tap those little lines in the corner to edit their photo in the first place. They think, oh, the Photos app is just for viewing. I think that Apple's interface being so out of the way, as much as I enjoy it, it dampens everyone else's experience because they don't know to look for these hidden menus. That it's not even a hidden feature. It's a primary feature of the app. People don't know exist. So
yeah, I mean, most people, they just enjoy. They don't edit. But yeah, I don't know.
I think that's my point. Is most people just want a library, and I think if we could get Photos to be more of a library tool, because it's fine, it does what it needs to. You have certain categories.
The memories, I must say, are a big hit amongst normies. Like
the widget that you can put on your home screen.
Totally. Yeah.
If you don't have Apple's photo widget on the home screen, just add it.
That's great.
You'll always be surprised what it surfaces. It's very much like the very popular today in Facebook, whatever thing that's a whole different tangent. But I need to like write literally almost a book on the ways you can replicate social media technologies without being on social media. Apple has so many of them.
Totally.
It's actually kind of impressive that Apple still hasn't crossed that line into, actually, we're just social media. They're like 99.9% of the way there, but just because they don't have a central timeline, they're not to get off on a tangent, but photos are such an important thing to me. Like Pixelmator Pro and all this stuff, it all comes back to my desire to have everything put together in a very specific way. I think it is so important that photos be photos and files be files, right? I've opened so many people's phones with permission and seen their Photos app, and it just be 8,000 white space background memes, and every 100 photos is a actual photo they've taken with their iPhone.
Oh, that's interesting because, like, it to Apple's credit, it does a good job of hiding the screenshots pretty well, and that's most of the stuff that I would have that's in there outside of like
You can
a real
toggle
photo.
that on.
Yeah, but it's pretty good about that. Like, I wish that'd be nice if there'd be a toggle to like detect what is not a photo and what is like an image that accidentally got in here somehow, like the memes, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's
because there would be a way of doing that, right? There'd be a way of telling this is not from a camera. This is from Pixelmator or something.
Well, Photos actually already does that. There's different library attributes. So one of those attributes is imported. So it's either labeled as a screenshot, which is literally you took a screenshot, and it's the metadata is written to it the moment you take the screenshot of what device took that screenshot and everything, and what time it was taken, all that stuff. But there's also the other attribute, which is imported. But the thing is, you can also import from
photos.
a camera.
Yeah, I do that all the time. Yep.
But you can also import from, like, if you open files and save to library, that's also an import.
Yes.
So, but I think that you're right. Like, they should be able to use key descriptors to say this is a photo, this is a text document. But even then, and this is why I think I also would really like to see photos appear as a file system attribute inside of files. Like, I want to go open the Files app and see a photos section. And manage my photo library from there as well. That might be a little too nerdy, but that gets back to the point of photos should be for viewing photos, and other places should be for the other aspects of managing photos. But there's already filtering tools and everything. But again, I think Apple has a really powerful platform here. Pixelmator Pro shows that they're dedicated to getting to more creative apps and styles and things like that. So I could see, especially this year as we're getting closer to WWDC, I could see Apple doing something really interesting with the Photos app. Because if you've been paying attention to Apple, especially as long as we have, there's a pattern emerging. And starting with iOS 14, every single release has had a major social feature. And that has been something I've been keeping a very close eye on, because there are enhancements to messages and there are enhancements to sharing and collaboration and tools like that. Every time they do that, it's just like really fascinating to me. And I think Photos being what it is so much of your system. I think that Apple could give us some really interesting stuff, especially with this artificial intelligence stuff coming up, Apple Intelligence. I think memories could get an additional feature, like create a folder of every time I've ever been to this city or whatever, or create a folder of, hey, you can detect a trip. They already do that, actually. I was going to say, in collections, if you go to trips, you don't even have to make these. It just detects when you take photos somewhere that isn't your home. And it's made an album of every city that you've been to, and it's really cool. This is a total diversion, but I just think Photos is such a powerful tool, and I want to encourage everyone listening, go in, select all your memes, go to the screenshots folder, select all, export to files, delete. Make a files folder called memes or something, and then you know what? Go deeper. Make a memes folder, and then make a secondary folder for this kind of meme and this kind of meme. Right? Have it organized, and then that way you can just access it quickly and get it out of your Photos app. Make Photos about photos, and start taking pictures more often. Believe me, you will never regret taking photos, and the people around you will never be mad that there's a person in their party that takes pictures. Because I will say this too, as we wrap this up. This is a photos focused episode. The number one tip I can give anyone, young or old, is stop taking pictures of stuff. Like, yes, go to Washington, D.C., see the monuments, take a picture of it. But then take a picture of your family or your friends at the monument,
Mhm.
or get a selfie with them at the monument. Because those are the images you'll cherish the most. You can look up an image of the Washington Monument any day you want, but no one else will have a photo of your loved one standing next to it smiling. So
No, that's a good point.
don't take pictures of fireworks. Take pictures of your family looking at fireworks. I promise, much better. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No, that's great advice. How many accidental Apple Watch screenshots do you find yourself taking in a month?
The first couple of years of Apple Watch, it was all the time.
Yeah, I still have like probably, I don't know, 50 I take in a month on accident, just my wrists.
I'm more often taking screenshots of my phone alarm going off.
Oh yeah,
But the Apple Watch Ultra, funny enough, because I switched to it this year. I was always a series user, and I did not get the first two iterations. I got Apple Watch Ultra 3. That was my first. And since I got this one, because of the way the crown and stuff is shaped, it's harder to do. It can happen, but it is so rare now.
Okay, yeah. I use the Ultra 3, and then I've got the Series 9 for my night watch,
See, I still have my series, whatever the last one was, 10. I need to sell it or something.
I love using two watches.
Use it.
I love using. I'm a 2-watch person. I love that because one thing it's really nice. Like you can tell it which watch you want to be connected to at the time with 2 watches. So you can be wearing a watch and tell it, let's talk to that other watch right now. So that lets me like download stuff over Wi-Fi quicker on that watch I'm wearing and stuff.
Sure.
So that's the kind of a pro thing of having 2 watches. And I also just let me use the night watch, the Series 9 when I get home from work, and that lets me sleep track with that one and have the smaller one for that, and a little change of pace, the design being different. It makes me appreciate both watches when I change into them, But anyways, enough of that tangent. Thank you for your time today, Wes. It's been fun chat. Really appreciate it. Where can folks find what you're up to? I know you did a post on your personal blog about Pixelmator Pro as well.
Yeah, it was very brief because this is complicated. I'll mention it here. I am running a personal blog, Hilly Tech. It's my name on Blue Sky and stuff. It's a dumb amalgamation I created years ago and just kind of stuck to because my last name's Hilliard. But it's so funny running this blog because I created it mostly as I want a place on the internet that is mine. It's not Apple Insider. It's not a social media company. It is my website where my stuff lives. And so with that approach, it has, it's a personalized blog, but it's still, I'm not like posting about my life so much. I might mention that I got married or something, but it's still tech. It's still my opinions. It's still like I might even talk about a TV show or a video game, but it's still that kind of blog. But it's separate from Apple Insider, but also attached in ways. I focus mostly on Apple news and Apple things, but I also can't just write about anything because technically I can't compete with my work. So I have to find distinct ways and things to discuss that would never be appropriate or available on Apple Insider. So I've been having a lot of fun looking for ways to do that. It took me about a year. I was posting weekly on Fridays, doing a summary of like news of the week and having a discussion of like wider things going on in the world and things like that. And that worked out well. And again, that didn't step on Apple Insider's toes. And I got to link to content that I had written for Apple Insider. Easy place to go find it through my blog. But then I realized I was like, okay, I got to do something with this thing. I'm paying money for this website to exist. So a week ago, actually, I decided I'm going to at least try to do one post every day of something, and probably shorter, maybe even sometimes link style posts that Daring Fireball does, where he quotes literally a passage and then here's a link and then that's it. Like that's the kind of stuff I want to try to start doing. And then Fridays, my summary is still happening, but I'm going to send it out also as a newsletter. So I opened up membership, and you can join hilly.tech, and you can leave comments when you do, and you can get my weekly newsletter that way. And again, it's all free. I have a buy me a coffee link in there if someone wants to give me $1 or something, because this website, again, is not free to own anyway. But it's been an interesting project. It's very much a side thing. I want to continue building it out and doing different things with it. But it really lets me be me and say and discuss things again in a way that isn't necessarily going to happen on Apple Insider. And I hope people listening here might go enjoy that, because that's going to be more stuff about iPad and Vision Pro and Apple, and you might see some additional content outside of tech as well. So I encourage everyone to go give that a look. Obviously, I'm an Apple Insider. You can see me there every day writing all kinds of nonsense. Lots of fun. I've been picking on Mark Gurman lately, just because he's so aggressively negative on every bit of Apple rumor that he gets.
He's fun to pick on. Yeah.
I like picking that apart. Nothing against Mark Gurman. It's all in good fun. It's our job. We like to poke at each other. But all in all, yeah, you can find me at those places, and Apple Insider podcast, obviously, every week with William Gallagher. And what do you think of Steven Robles? He's taking over at Mac Power Users. That's exciting.
I joked that Steven is leaving and Steven is taking over. They should. I think the last episode was Steven Says Goodbye. They should have the next episode be titled Steven Says Hello.
Right.
I think it's great. I love Steven. He's cool
the
guy.
King is dead. Long live the king.
Yeah. Yeah, he was with you guys before he left and became independent.
Yeah, so Steven, I bring him up because, I mean, he created the Apple Insider podcast, and I started listening to the Apple Insider podcast shortly after he created it in like 2014, 2015. And then I joined the company in 2020. Again, all serendipitous. There was no plan here.
Sure.
And then he went independent, mostly just because, he had been with he was never like a day writer. He was always podcasting and media, and if it made sense for him, like we all support him in his journey. Like he went and started his own thing, Beard FM, and he's made some pretty cool videos. But dude has like skyrocketed into the wider tech view, and people, and it's always fascinating to me to like people are discussing him on these other podcasts and stuff. I'm like, good for you, man. So
I think he's been on the talk show with Gruber.
I'm very jealous of that.
Yeah.
But like he we have an Apple Insider alumni, now running Mac Power Users, which I think is very funny because Steven also historically very much an iPad guy. So I want to point that out.
It's cool. And the reason in the intro post about him, it was like, we want someone that's experimenting with new technology, and he's certainly, he's diving into like smart home stuff. And so it should be fun to hear the transition to the new duo there. It would be fun. It would be a lot of fun to have a panel episode of now the Katie, David, and the Stevens on one episode. Would be a fun fun episode to have one of these days.
Yeah, David still will never miss an episode. I don't think. I think he would come on to say one word and then mute for the rest of the show. Like he has to be on every episode.
Yeah, no, I've been listening to that show for long time, since it started back before as part of Relay.
It'll be interesting. I just wanted to bring it up because, again, like I just find that interesting. Apple Insider always feels like, we're part of the group of Mac Rumors and 9 to 5, and we all compete. And it's all good business, good fun. Like we don't hate each other or anything. And I always find it funny, like Relay, being what it is, focuses very heavily on reporting from like Chance Miller and stuff, and 9 to 5 and everything. And weirdly enough, like in the wider set point of this Apple tech reporting universe, we're on equal footing with these other guys, but for whatever the reason, I think it's just friction or inertia, we're less cited overall from the, like, go listen to an app, anything with like Federico Vitici. They're going to read from 9 to 5 Mac and stuff. So it's kind of fun to have representation in the Relay community of like, hey, Apple Insider exists.
Yeah, but I had Steven on iPad Pros back for episode 133 in January of 2022. So
there you go.
Yeah, it's been a bit.
Well, when I become world famous, don't worry, I won't forget. I'm joking. It is the tech pipeline of reporting, though, is always amusing to me, because it seems to me that it doesn't always happen, but you start out at these smaller, basically micro blogs, and then you can get picked up by something like an Apple Insider, and then find yourself somewhere like a CNET or TechCrunch, and you can go one of two ways: independent and compete with becoming the next John Gruber, or get absorbed by Apple and turn into the ghost of Serenity Caldwell.
Yeah,
so,
I miss Serenity. She's she's still around, but
Yeah. Sorry. The whole meta conversation around this stuff's always amusing to me, and it's me as an Apple tech reporter and stuff. It's not just my job. It's a hobby. It's a passion, and I like keeping up with our friends, and just wanted to share in this little closing that has gone too long that hey, go check out Mac Power Users. That's also great.
Absolutely. Well, thanks again, Wes. Really appreciate your time today.
Yeah, glad we got to have our talk, and I will happily come back when Apple does something radically insane with the iPad in a couple of months, I'm sure.
Sounds good. Well, that's my discussion with Wes, all about Pixelmator Pro and a couple other fun tangents I hope you enjoyed. Once again, check out Wes over at Apple Insider on the Apple Insider podcast and on his site, Hilly Tech. I'll link to all that in the show notes. If you'd like to support this podcast, you can do so over at patreon.com/iPadPros or by subscribing in Apple Podcasts. With that, I'll talk with everyone again real soon.